Hi there, my name is Felipa, and I am on day 53 of reading this great big Bible for the next year. So, day 53, as I mentioned yesterday, we had a little bit of a story of Samson killing a bunch of the Philistines. And then we have a man of Mount Ephraim whose name was Micah. And it says that he ended up taking he had some money, and he made himself a house of gods, an ephod, a teraphim, and consecrated one of his sons who became his priest. And so he had all these graven images and molten images in the house of Micah. And it interestingly says here in chapter 17, verse 6, it says, "In those days there was no king in Israel, but every man did that which was right in his own eyes." I really like that part, because essentially it's saying if you don't believe in God, if you don't have faith, if you're not following the Lord and his commandments, everybody's going to have different interpretations of what's right and what's wrong. And that's going to work for some people and not for some. And I could see how that could create a lot of conflict. And so Micah ends up coming across one of the family of Judah who was a Levite. And he says, I want you to be my priest. And he says, okay, I will be your priest. The tribe of Dan, which we know is one of the tribes of Israel, is looking for lands to conquer. They come across this Levite and they say, "Are you kidding me? Like, why are you in this random house by yourself? Come back and serve our house. You're a Levite. You're supposed to serve the Lord." And so he goes with them. And so then the tribe of Dan decides to attack the city of Laish. And so they end up doing that. And then they end up stealing. So the people of Dan end up stealing Micah's idols and his priest. They end up stealing, he goes with them and they steal the carved image and the molten image and all of that stuff. And Dan ends up chasing after them. He says, like, "What the heck? You took all my stuff, give it back." But he says he sees he's outnumbered by the children of Dan and all their army. And he just drops it and they tell him to leave. So Laish ends up being destroyed by the children of Dan, and they rename the city Dan. But interestingly so, it says, "And they set them up Micah's graven image, which he made all the time that the house of God was in Shiloh." So it's interesting that they set up this graven image that's not supposed to exist in the first place. A Levite persuades his unfaithful wife to return to him. So now we see this story where it says that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Ephraim, and he had a concubine. He ended up he sent her onto her father's house. Then he went back to go get her, and they just kind of stayed there for a couple of days, couple of nights. And finally, the one night, he's like, "Okay, we really got to get going. We got to go home." Her dad, or his father-in-law, says, "No, don't go. It's nighttime," but he says, "No, I'll go." And so they don't want to go into any of the surrounding cities because they're not followers of the Lord. They're not Israelites. And then they happen across an old man who shows them hospitality, and he says, you can stay with us. And so they stay with him. But then the immoral men of Gibeah, which belong to Benjamin, they end up coming to this man's house and saying, "Hey, we know that that you have this Levite in your home. We want to kill him." And the man says, "No, I won't let you kill him." But interestingly, so this is chapter 19, verse 24, he says, "Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. Them I will bring out now, and humble ye them, and do with them what seemeth good unto you. But unto this man do not so a vile a thing." So on the one breath, you're like, okay, great. He's protecting the guy and he doesn't want harm to come to him. But awful that he is essentially saying, "Here's my daughter and here's his concubine, my visitor's concubine, and do whatever you guys want to do." So very tragic, obviously not nice to read. The fact that essentially, I'm not going to mince words, it doesn't say it here, they say abuse, but clearly they raped the concubine all night, then they let her go, which is quite awful. She comes to the door in the morning. He rises up, sees her at the door, like her husband does, the Levite, and he tries to get her to get up. She doesn't. It's not really indicated whether she's dead or whether she's passed out. Very intensely so, he takes her into the house and takes a knife to her and divides her into 12 pieces and sends her into all the coast of Israel. Super, super intense. And then, if understandably so, he explains his desire for revenge to the children of Benjamin, and says like, yeah, like I am so angry, and I have a desire for revenge, essentially. And as we go into the tribe of Benjamin defending itself against 2 attacks, and it's interesting because if you remember, Benjamin was also one of the tribes of Israel. So this is interesting because we're having the children of Dan destroying the children of Benjamin. So we're having 2 tribes of Israel destroying one another. And the tribe of Benjamin is finally destroyed. And in this whole thing, there was kind of an agreement by the children of Dan where they said like, well, we're not going to consort with the children of Benjamin because they did this bad thing. They're men from the city or the nation of Gibeah. They raped and hurt this concubine, this woman of the Levite, and so we're not going to consort with the children of Benjamin anymore. And so how are we? And then after they're destroyed, some of the people are like, oh my gosh, well, like, how are we going to, like, where we've lost a nation, because we made a promise to God that if he helps us kill the children of Benjamin, that we will not consort with them. We will destroy everything they have. Our people will not, like our nation, our children of Dan will not be consorting with the children of Benjamin, sort of thing. But where will we find wives? And so then the elders of the congregation basically say, how shall we do for wives for them that remain, seeing the women are destroyed out of Benjamin? And there is an agreement, and it says there's a feast of the Lord in Shiloh yearly in a place which is on the north side of Bethel, on the side of the highway that goeth up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south of Lebanah. Therefore they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, go and lie wait in the vineyards. See which daughters of Shiloh come out to dance out of their vineyards. Catch you every man his wife of the daughters, and go to the land of Benjamin. So essentially, all of the individuals kind of that were left from the nation of Benjamin, the idea was that there was they cleansed like the wickedness of the nation of Benjamin, and the people that were left over were essentially like good people. And then it says, and the children of Israel departed thence at that time, every man to his tribe and to his family, and they went out from thence, every man to his inheritance. So we're kind of back to square one, essentially, with the nations and the tribes being repaired, and hopefully now going forward, these new nations, these new residents, the new people that have remained behind, that they will build up a nation and they will build up a people that are not as wicked as what had happened before. So yeah, this is where we end with the book of Judges, and tomorrow is day 54, and I move on to the book of Ruth. So I will see you then.